One of my favorite ways to learn about New York City history is simply to walk around. The city has been critical to the development of America and the world, and luckily there have always been people interested in documenting its stories. It is almost impossible not to stumble upon a place where history was made if you keep your eyes open. There are plaques and signs and memorials everywhere. One unexpected place to learn about history is actually in the city parks, as the park department often posts signs with historical information. Today I want to talk a little bit about Washington Square Park, located in Greenwich Village between West 4th and West 7th Street in Manhattan. It is an iconic New York City location, appearing in books, movies, and TV shows, from Henry James' novel Washington Square to Will Smith's post-apocalyptic film I Am Legend. It is always full of people, performing, studying, or just hanging out. The green sign on West 4th Street is a goldmine of information about the history of the park, and it inspired me to do a little more research. You can guess who the park is named after, George Washington, of course, but there is much more to the park than that. It was an Indian village, farmland under the Dutch, for a time that in the 1600s was owned by freed slaves, a public graveyard, and the site of public executions. After it became a park in 1827, rich families began to settle in the area, which was then considered uptown, to get away from the disease prevalent in the lower parts of the city. In 1889, a wooden arch was built to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Washington's inauguration. Invoking Washington has often been a way Americans have expressed patriotism and celebrated a national identity. The wooden arch was so popular that it was replaced by a permanent marble one that still stands today. That was designed by the famous architect Stanford White, who also designed Gould Memorial Library on the Bronx Community College campus. For over 100 years, Washington Square has been a place for people to gather, not just for recreation, but to protest for social change. A major suffrage parade began at the park in 1912, and 3 years later over 25,000 people marched on the park in support of women getting the vote. In the 1960s, it was often the site of anti-war protests. And recently, Barack Obama held an enormous rally there during the 2008 primaries, attracting at least 15,000 people. Washington Square is just one example of the rich history we pass by in our day-to-day lives. The park historic signs are available online as well as in the parks. The website is www.nycgovparks.org. But I encourage you to get out and explore the parks and the rest of the city, and keep your eyes peeled for more history on the streets of New York City.